Got it again. Hello, everybody. We've been pretty familiar with this this whole Zoom mode of communications. We've been all over it for months, over a couple months now, it seems, and feel pretty well prepared to deal here. Let's make sure that we ask all the questions because there's a lot going on, and I know you guys are ready, and guys and girls, and interested in seeing where you guys want to go. Let's go.
Let's start off with Michael Sean.
So Pete, you've been a lot more kind of active of your support in like support of Black Lives Matter recently. I wanted to know what has maybe changed in your sense, like, you know, Colin first took a knee and Michael Bennett was protesting in 2017. You know, you've been more active since then. What's different maybe about this situation that's inspired your kind of action now?
Well, I think to tell you the truth, we've been on the topic for a long time. This isn't just the last couple of weeks for us. We've been on the topic for years in our building and in our locker room and in our team room, and trying to figure out, you know, how to make sense of how we can help and how we can do the right thing. This is not new issues. This is not new concerns that needed to be dealt with. They just now have just taken a new turn. And so I think that as everybody has the opportunity to get in the discussions more deeply, more earnestly, with more intent, we just learn more. And this is a topic for us that has so much depth to it and so much concern for all of us to get on. I mean, the whole thought of Black Lives Matter, when it first came out, I can remember in our meetings, our players, we were talking, they are asking questions. What does this mean? You know, what does it mean to me? What is it, you know, how should I take this? As people were saying, no, all lives matter and blue lives matter and all that kind of stuff was happening. And I can remember the discussions. I went right to Dr. Harry Edwards and got him connected to help us understand where we should go and what we should come to understand. And the topics and all the things that we were talking about right then are the topics that we're on right now. But fortunately, we're at a time when the opportunity to create change is more available to us now. Understanding how powerful it is to say that Black Lives Matter and to stand behind that principle and that thought and what that means to us is just more clear than it was to our players, as it is to myself personally. And so as we all grow, we need to stay with it. We need to make something happen, and we need to really work this thing until we get where it has to go, to the right place where everybody's considered free and equal and just things are happening, where we all feel like we're living in a great world compared to what we are in right now. So, you know, there has been a lot that has happened. The topic is not new. I think our ability to communicate and converse and approach concepts is really at a place that it's never been. And so I'm grateful for that. I'm sorry to my heart that we're here because of the reasons we're here, because of the events that happened. But we got to do something right and do something well right now.
One follow-up. You guys had a workout scheduled with Colin Kaepernick in 2018, that offseason. Was that workout ultimately postponed for reasons that had to do with football?
You're talking about the second time. Colin had come in 16 or whatever that was, a couple years before that. It was just a normal, the way I recall that one, it was just a normal kind of process of, you know, we have guys scheduled to come in, and we didn't come together. I don't remember the specifics of why we didn't, but there was nothing about, you know, there's been stuff in the media that because we were concerned about him taking a knee or whatever, that never even came up in our conversations. That was never even an issue for us. And that wasn't true. And so, but in that regard to that one, it was just things didn't work out, and we moved on. It was at the time, I don't know, I can't remember what Russ's health was all about, but that's what would have been one of the issues. How was, you know, I always felt like Cap was the kind of guy that was a starting quarterback, like I said way back then, that had we had that opportunity, he would have been a great, possibly a great fit with us. And you know, that's a situation we never got to that.
Thanks.
Bob Condotta.
Pete, with the the Zoom meetings that you've had with the team? I know some teams are starting to cut these off. Do you intend to continue going with these for the next couple of weeks? And then how do you feel like this process has gone, having to deal with the offseason?
Bob, we have been through, it's just been a training session, technologically, creatively. I'm so fired up about what we have been able to accomplish during this time, because I had no idea. I didn't have a clue what was going to happen here. And I asked the coaches to use every ounce of their creativity that they could and their energy that they could to keep the meetings proactive and involved and upbeat and moving, and like we always like to do, and didn't know if that would translate, through the technology, but it has. And we've made incredible progress. I think we're smarter at this point because of the added time that we've had to work and really focus on the mental side of it than we've ever been. We're going to go again next week. Will be our last week. We have been disciplined, strict about it. Gosh, it's been amazing how much interaction there has been. And I give a lot of credit to the guys behind the scenes, orchestrated so that it could come off this way. But we've had an open forum every day with stuff going, and the coaches have done a marvelous job of maintaining the juice that it takes to keep, your teaching class and to keep your students involved and interacting and studying. And our guys have made presentations. They've been in competitions the whole time, and we're pretty good at this right now. And it's worked out just fine under the circumstances. As far as the football, normally in the offseason, you'd have 2 weeks of phase one, which is all meetings and no football. So we've gone, weeks past that now. We're almost 6 weeks past 2 weeks. And so we're just that much smarter for it. And I'm hoping that it'll carry over and that we'll get great retention, over the break.
And to just follow up on what Michael Sean was asking about Kaepernick, is there anything about either of that situation you would do differently now, I guess, in light of anything? Do you feel like, looking back on it?
Well, Bob, let's let you and Michael ask the question about Cap. Really simply put, we all held him in great regard as a player. We had coached against him in championship games and watched him go to the Super Bowls and beat us, and we beat him. I think we knew Cap as well as anybody could have known a player. And, just because of the depth of the competition we had against him. And when we had the opportunity, it had come up. I'll take you back to a story here. Cap called me during the season, before that offseason. And he had called out of the blue to ask me, for some advice about where he would go next. I was flattered that he would even think to call me, because we had never talked before that I could, other than just, greetings. And so from that point, I was kind of rooting for him, and hoping that things would work out. And so when it came back around, then I forgot about it, but when we came back around and we had a chance to visit him, and it came up, I was thinking, okay, this is an incredible football player. Let's find out if it could possibly fit football-wise and all of that. And then also, because he hadn't visited anywhere yet, maybe this would help him, open up doors for him if our thing didn't work out. And we had great meetings. I don't know that I've ever explained it in as much depth, but we spent half a day together. He spent time with our people throughout the building, and almost a full day. And he was awesome. He just backed up even more of the play that we had seen in the character and in his smarts and his togetherness and his competitiveness, to the point where it was so obvious that he's a starter in the NFL that this, it was just, that's what I think I eventually wound up answering to you guys, saying to you guys that he's a dominant figure as a football player, and that's how we saw him. And the fact that it didn't work out, for us, I figured he's going to wind up starting somewhere for sure, and it just didn't happen. So the rest of that story is one that I regret that didn't happen in some fashion. I wish we would have contributed to it, because the guy deserved to play. I thought at the time, in our situation as a backup, man, I didn't feel it was right at that time. So I had to make that football decision. It was about our team and the situation. We had our starting quarterback and all of that. And it wasn't going to be the open competitive situation that I'd like to think all of our spots are, because Russ was such a dominant figure and all that. So anyway, that's what happened. And I wish people had called me during the time before we ever got him in and say, hey, he'd be great in your program. He may not be able to play here or there, but he certainly could play for you. I agreed with that. He could play for us. He could have been a fantastic player in our program. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out. And then when you look back, I felt like we missed the opportunity. And so as I look back at it, I wish we could have figured it out and known what we know now and given him the chance, because I would love to see him play football all those years.
Great. Thank you, Pete.
Okay.
AJ McCord.
Thanks, Coach, for being here. So question for you in the conversations that you've had with your players in the last couple of weeks. I know from what we've learned from the players, it's just been a very open dialogue between the Black community and what they're feeling as well as the rest of the team. So for you as the head coach, what's the biggest thing that you think you're taking away from these conversations, these open conversations your team has been having in the last few weeks?
Well, AJ, we've been in conversations for a long time here for the purpose of relating with our players. We're a relationship-based organization, and it all starts with communication. And so we've always been, interacting and all, and we've always given our guys a chance to tell their story. We want to hear from them and get to know them so that we can better help them and relate to them. And so this wasn't new for us to do it. It was new for our new players, but everything has just been more on point. Everything has just been more right at the essence of what needs to be conveyed. The fact that we've gone this far with it and we've gone so long with it, that we've opened up passageways for communications that I think that I was always trying to get to in the 4 years ago when things really hit. I wanted to find a way to communicate that it's just happened this time around, and it's happened in great fashion. Our guys have been able to tell their story, and the reason that's so valuable is not for just the guys listening and learning about their teammates, but for the young man that gets to express, where he's coming from and get his feelings out in an environment that allows for him to be vulnerable and allows for him to demonstrate the courage that it takes to speak truly openly from his heart and be received for that. And so I just think that even more than ever, we're farther along than we've ever been. And I think as we've heard so many people commenting on the diversity that is demonstrated throughout the country and throughout the world in support of Black Lives Matter and all of the concerns that we have, it's been conveyed through our meetings as well. And I think we're farther than we've ever been, and we're closer to the kind of commitment it's going to take to make all of the changes that we have to bring about. So the whole process has been moving. We went back to it again after the funeral and all that happened on Tuesday. We went back to our meetings on Wednesday, and we were off Tuesday, but Wednesday, the conversations were going again. Conversations were still going again today in some of our players' meetings. And it's absolutely what has to happen. So I feel like we're right in the middle of it, and we have to get activated because we may have an opportunity to help more than some other groups would, and we're going to go for it. And our guys are committed and determined, and we're all doing this together. So it's an extraordinary time. We got to make this really work for us. We got to do the right thing.
And quick follow-up, sorry for your third straight one about Cap, but you said that you'd love to see him play football again. If there was an opportunity, if he showed a willingness to play backup, is that something that you guys would engage in that conversation again?
Yeah, we're kind of, I like our setup right now. I love the way Gino fits together in our role and all that, so that it's not really available at this time for us. But I wouldn't hesitate, and I've said this ongoing for years, if Russ ever got tangled up and couldn't play or something, Cap would have been an extraordinary candidate to take over because of the dynamics of his play. We've always really cherished the unique qualities that players bring, and he had a unique style that we couldn't have respected more. But as the backup, I hope he's going to get a chance to do that because he deserves to be playing.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Greg Bell.
OG. Don't get scared now, Greg.
Hi, sorry. Hi, Pete. Good to see you again.
What's up?
You just mentioned the football aspect of Kaepernick, but what you're saying about this being an extraordinary time, how much of you sees that you could be the team and the guy to give him the platform for this extraordinary time and get him back in the league?
Yeah, honestly, Greg, I regret, and the question was asked earlier, I regret that we weren't the one way back when that just did it just to do it, even though I thought that it wasn't the right fit necessarily for us at the time. And it was because the reason it wasn't the right fit is because I held him in such high regard. I didn't see him as a backup quarterback, and I didn't want to put him in that situation with Russ, and it just didn't feel like it would fit right. So that's the way I felt about it. I just wish it would happen, and I wish we would have been a part of it. And when the time was available, then we're kind of set up right now. So it's football wise, it doesn't seem to fit us. But like I said, there's a lot of time here. We'll see what happens.
What have you learned from your players in the last couple of weeks about this issue that may be different from 2016-17 when Kaepernick and this first movement came about?
Yeah, well, first thing we know is Cap was right on point. He was right on it. He was right on the topics about police brutality and inequality, and he was right on the subject matter at the time. That's so obvious now, where maybe all of the flack that flew about not honoring the flag and all those other things that were not even a part of the demonstration or what his intent was at all, got just skewed the whole discussion. I don't think that's around now. It's different at this time frame. But let me say that the thing that has happened that's different now is we're able to talk the conversation to the depths that get us going in the right direction. And all of our players have talked about the difficult discussions with their children and with their family members that have been approached at times, and some more than others. We've learned some families have been well into the topic and some families hadn't. And some of our guys who are parents, were hoping they may not have to go to that discussion with their children, but they know they do. And we've learned so much more about how we have to be in the open and how we have to be open to the discussion and vulnerable to the difficult discussions that we haven't been in before. It's like first time things are, you're more tentative about and hesitant about. Well, we're getting through that. And that's really important. That's really important. And I think we're going to be way better for it now. But we're just at the beginning stages of really making a big change. So I can't remember exactly what your question was. I'm yapping, but I think we're different than we were, and we're better for it at this time.
In the bigger society, Pete, you're a football coach of a football team, but why is an NFL team, especially yours, more equipped than maybe some other aspects of society to have platforms and make a difference here?
Well, I don't know those other teams. I don't know what they're talking about, what they're doing, and all that. But I do know that it's so important to me that we experience the entirety of this opportunity that we're in, and that's to explore all aspects of it. If our guys are going to be the best football player they're going to be, they're on course to figure out how they can be the best man that they can be and the best human that they can be, as well as we talk so much about being a great teammate and what that is about service to others and all that. We're on all of the topics that encompass, I hope, the entire scope of an individual as he's part of this big team that we're on. And so I don't think there's any topic that we shouldn't approach. There's no discussion that we can't get to. It doesn't mean that we're well equipped and we have the answers and anything, but we need to approach them. And so this is a growing experience for all of them, and one that they can it will enhance their entire perspective of the world. And I think that all adds to them being better at what they're focusing on. Their purpose is to be the best football player and to be a great dad and maybe a great son, and all that. We need to encompass the entire individual. So that's how we've gone about it. We've tried to find out how we can communicate with our guys to help them be the very best they can possibly be. And I don't see that works when you leave some aspect of their life out. I think you got to address the whole thing. And so that's why we're in the discussions. That's why we're comfortable being in the discussions. It doesn't mean that we got any answers. It doesn't mean that we got this thing nailed at all, but we're going for it and we're not going to hold back. And frankly, back in, we were in Tennessee, when the discussion really, really came to light, and we spent the evening in intense meetings, trying to get to the crux of the matter and trying to figure stuff out and all. And it cost us a football game. I mean, we were screwed up. I thought, man, we didn't look like us playing on the road, and we got a butt kicked that day. And we had spent so much energy in that direction. We just like always, any distraction will take away from your performance, and it did. I didn't guide us well enough to win the football game. I took it where our hearts kind of needed to go, I thought. And so we paid a little bit of a price. I don't regret that at all at this point. But the point is, it's a taxing, difficult discussion, and you have to get good at doing it. And you got to have some guidelines and some principles so that you can be vulnerable. Brene Brown told us the other day about, you have to create a container that's okay for you to talk that way. You have to build a kind of guidelines and rules around open discussion so people can feel that they can speak from their heart and be in a safe place and to do that. So you ask them why us? I don't know. I always tell you, I don't know what's going on in anybody else's room, but I love that we're able to go there. It is part of what makes this experience extraordinary. And there's nowhere that I won't go to try to help our guys figure it out, help myself figure it out too. I'm trying to be great at this whole discussion and helping guide, our guys, my family, myself, to figure it out and be really effective.
Thank you.
Some really good long interviews, long answers, huh, guys? You're asking for it, so let's go. I got nothing to do this afternoon, so let's roll.
Aaron Levine.
Hey, Coach, a little bit back to football here. In terms of training camp, how might that be different now without the OTAs and mini camps this year? And maybe what did you learn from the 2011 season when it was sort of a similar situation with the lockout?
Yeah. Well, the league is right in the middle of discussions. We get kind of tidbits as they have them to share with us that really, I don't even know how much is out there. I don't know how much but they're trying to formulate a plan of reentry, and how we could do that. Our club is not going to, we're not, we decided earlier we're not going to bring players in. The league has said that, players aren't coming in early now. And so we were in support of that from the beginning. But somewhere in the middle of July, somewhere in there's going to be a date where we're going to be able to, they're aiming to kick us into activity, and it'll be kind of scheduled. I see it kind of like a little bit of phase 1, a little bit of phase 2, getting us ready for football. And I'm not going to give you their dates and times right now because I know they're not settled, but that's the plan. And so there's some conversation out there that's talking about, the preseason being shorter. That might coincide with, depending on when the date is and all that. None of that's settled at this time. So if anybody says they got it, as far as I know, we have not heard that. So what it really calls for is we have to be wide open. We have to be ready to adapt. So we have a number of scenarios of how we're going to handle moving forward, and depending on what the dates are and all of that. And like always, whatever it is, it's going to be equal. And we're going to try to kick butt in the competition of making the most of the opportunities that we have. And so when you asked about before, when you look back to that time, we're way farther ahead in the sense that we've been able to communicate with our players, through the technology that's given us the chance to teach our systems and our concepts and our principles and all that. And we have gone for it. I mean, we're not just, just kind of going through the motion on it. Our guys, our coaches, and our players have responded to totally go for it so that we can max this thing out. And it doesn't surprise you, I would tell you, we're taking like competition and we're trying to compete every single day to get the most out of every day. And that's what's happened. And so we're way farther ahead than we were before. If you remember, we came out of that time, we didn't play very good up front. we struggled. The offensive line, I remember that might have been the area that takes the biggest hit because of all of the intricacies and the continuity of it. And so I've learned that will be an area of great focus and concern when we come back, just recognizing and respecting that may be the last group that really can get tied together. So we're going to have to really do a great job in that area.
Quickly, you mentioned the possibility of 2 preseason games instead of 4. The League and Players Association kind of trying to work that out right now. How would that change things?
Is that out? Is that in the media?
There was a report that the League and Players Association are deciding.
I didn't want to be breaking the news there. I hadn't heard, honestly. They had not told us that yet, but I heard that through the media. But that makes sense because of the timeframes they're talking about. There won't be enough time to, prior to the first real game. So, so the question is, I'm sorry.
The question is, how would that change things in terms of the lead up to the regular season compared to past years?
I think the number one thing that it changes is the opportunity for the young guys to show themselves. When a young guy gets hurt, it really hinders him more so than an experienced player. And that's because he misses the time of developmental time. So if that was to take place, even though I'm extremely impressed with our young guys and how they have learned and they've applied themselves up to this point, but still there just might not be enough time to really give them the chance, so you might be behind in that area a little bit. We'll take that as a personal competition. We'll try to overcome that. But I would think that would be an area that you could see some guys, their opportunities. Maybe the free agent doesn't get as many shots as he needs to show. He misses those last 2 games are so crucial, for a young guy trying to make a club. So I would think that would be the area of focus there.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay.
Tim Booth.
Afternoon, Pete. League came out with some general health guidelines for bringing guys back in and kind of what training camp would look like. Have you looked at those? How realistic do you think those are? And what's sort of the biggest challenge in implementing things like social distancing in a locker room with 90 guys?
Yeah, I'll tell you, this interview, this presser, man, there's so much stuff. That's a huge area. We are trying to stay abreast this whole topic. I mean, in every aspect that we can, using all of the input that we can possibly get, and to sort out, the stuff that applies and all, so that we can make really good choices and decisions. The league will have their protocols, and they'll have that, and that they've already shown us the structure. We've already adopted the protocols for our coaches returning to the facility and all that. I hope that we're going to we're intending to do this as well as it can be done, and make sure that we make all of the testing available as we go. Because really, without the testing part of it and identifying somebody that might be an asymptomatic, person that could transfer the infection, we really don't know anything. So we have to really be in tune with testing. So that's all part of. Each club has the opportunity to do that as they choose within the guidelines and the protocol. So they've done a lot of homework. They've done tremendous work. They've gone everywhere they could to find out the information to advise us. But then it does come back to the clubs to make the final decisions on how you put things in, and the state also to make to allow us the guidelines to move forward. The state has, and the governor has given us the opportunity in the professional clubs to go ahead and follow, the league guidelines and what we need to do. So that freedom is there, which is good. But we're going to be very, very, very protective of our players and in the environment, and make sure that we're doing the right thing. And so you're asking me, I'm not going to tell you all the stuff we're going to do, because I don't want to give our stuff away right now, because we're still trying to figure it out. But we are intensely going after meeting situations and locker room situations and weight room sessions and walkthrough sessions and on the field, off the field, all of that stuff, masks, and all of that, so that we can be really well versed. And we're going to be great at this, and I hope it's good enough, and I hope that, and we're going to see is with all of the stuff we just saw. I think it's an interesting thing. I'll just drop on you that with all of the activities of the protests and all of the safe distancing that were violated, with all of the numbers in the streets and all of that, and we are out in it too, to go along and help out and support. There's going to be a lot of information come back to us about people gathering in open air settings, for the most part wearing masks. And let's see what happens. We're going to get a lot of science coming at us. It's a true experiment that's going to tell us a lot of stuff here. Maybe we find out that, that being outdoors is really a better way. We may wind up meeting outdoors, is what I'm getting at. We may wind up having everything outdoors as much as possible. If that's the case, we have time to get some feedback on that. And we're following the numbers like everybody else, and trying to make sense of it. So, and then there's a ton more to talk. There's so much stuff here, but we have to compete, and we have to have it's all hands on deck on this one, and we're all doing everything we can.
And then quickly, a separate topic. Quentin Dunbar had an incident off the field. What have your conversations been with him about what happened, and has he continued to participate in the virtual team meetings since then? Yeah,
he took a few days to take care of the stuff he had to take care of back home. He's still there in Florida. Been very open in the discussions of what's taking place. There's a whole process going on. I don't have the details of where that is right now, and wouldn't comment on that anyway. But we have been, very much connected with him and what is next and all of that. It seems like things are taking, I shouldn't even say, I don't even know, but we are following along with him. He is back and participating with us and focusing real well now. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll be right on it. And we are, John and his guys are all over it. And there's just not much I can share with you about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Larry Stone.
Hi, Pete. Thanks for answering the question. You mentioned that the meeting in Tennessee was so raw that it may have cost you the game. I'm wondering if you think that these open and vulnerable discussions you're having right now might actually bring the team closer together and to the point where it will help you when games resume.
Yeah, Larry, I think the time we spent in Tennessee did just that. I mean, it did. Hearts were open and it was raw and caring and emotional and all of that. Just as the meetings have been here, there just wasn't enough time to process that. In the midst of a travel weekend on the road and all that. And I'm not making an excuse for it. We just weren't the same. And we had given up a lot, and we had to. We did what we had to do, and we had to. Take our lumps. I was wondering at that time, were the Titans doing the same thing in their meeting rooms? Were they having those same discussions, and would it be relative? They may have. We just didn't handle it as well as I wish we would have for the football game. But it did lead us down, to a place where our team did continually grow closer. And right now, yeah, the fact, and for some reason in the Zoom format, each guy gets his chance and he's on the screen and everybody's looking him right in the eyes. He's telling his story. This has been very powerful. And even if you're sitting in a room and you're sitting behind a guy, in the same room, you sense the emotions even more so. But this has been really powerful. And it, whenever you're willing to show yourself, you can't help it feel somebody more so and understand them more deeply. And in that, it's all part of the depth of the connection that a team has an opportunity to go through. And sometimes you get there and sometimes you don't. You don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know how, where we are at this point. I can't tell you, but I do know that this has been absolutely necessary. And the essence of it is it has brought us closer. And it's really important that it does, because we got stuff we got to get done together too. We got work to do. And so we're going to need each other. We're going to need to work with one another. And it's just, we can't control everything outside of us. We can't touch everybody that's out there, but the better we work at it, the more heartfelt communication and conversations that we get through, I think we'll be able to extend our sense of awareness to those that we love and that are close to us. And, most of our guys are home. And so after they go through the sessions with us, I know that they're talking to their families and their loved ones and all, and their friends and buddies and all that. And I'm hoping that it's making a difference.
John Boyle.
Yeah, Pete, just piggybacking off of that, back in 2017 when these conversations were going on.
Cool. That's cool headsets, John.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate
it.
You had a lot of different guys kind of leading the charge back then, whether it was Mike or, Sherm or Doug Baldwin, a lot of guys who aren't here. Who have you seen kind of step up and taken the lead in these conversations now?
Yeah, well, even back then, Bobby and KJ and Russ, those guys were right at the forefront. This was not one or two guys. This was everybody that was involved. And fortunately, those guys have been through it and lived through it. And what I think is so fortunate about the experience that we've gone through is that the younger players had a chance to hear how our guys talk and hear what Dwayne Brown has to offer. So that they don't, the young guys don't know. They don't know what they're supposed to say or what, what are the guidelines and what are the boundaries and all that. But we have such tremendously willing and really gifted leaders in expressing themselves. They're used to, showing their heart and all that, that it's been really beneficial. And so I think there's been a real connection. I think that the guys who were there before, Cam and Doug and Sherm and all those guys that were with us, I think they'd be proud of how our guys, represent now and how they represent the past and what we've been through and how they demonstrate that experience then was meaningful to them now. And now they're pretty confident now that they're on the right track and they're giving these younger guys a tremendous illustration of what it takes to be part of something and you really give up everything you have. And so I'm telling you, for a freaking virtual offseason, I'm thrilled about that we've made it to where we have. And unfortunately, the circumstances have been I mean, the pandemic in itself, it led these discussions. We started with the pandemic. We didn't start with the latest, concerns with George Floyd and the family and the death and all that stuff. We just picked up on that one, and so it's been an amazing offseason. It really has.
And one football topic to follow up. You and John both talked after the season at the combine and everything else about wanting to improve on defense, it not being up to your standard last year. Just with what you've gotten done this offseason, how do you feel like you've done?
Yeah, pretty pumped up about it. Getting Bruce to come back was a big deal. Bruce is such a versatile football player, can play Sam and Leo and rush and nickel. That was a really good start to it. For the defensive side. And we can talk on the other side, when you ask the question. But I think to hit it with Jordan inside, he's going to be an extraordinary football player for us, and he's got flexibility to play around. We'll figure out how to fit him in best. To get both guys on the edges, that I think that it's going to, Daryl and Alton are going to be guys that are going to really give us some juice. So I think we've been fortunate, and we needed to hit speed on the edge, and we got it. And just the speed that Brooks brings, I mean, he flies, man. That 4.4 shows up on film. For years, it's shown up. He's been a very well-established football player, being an all-conference guy for 4 years. You can see him way back when. So it's natural. It's going to carry right into our game too. So it just makes us that much better. So I think, John, that we've made some good moves, and really the guys really are fitting in. Before you're done, you got another question for me? You good? Okay, I want to say something that I don't know if you guys had a chance to read John's article and the statement that he made in the marvelous explanation of our times and what's going on, and from a white guy's perspective. Johnny, was so important, and I'm saying that because if anybody, I know it didn't go out in the big media, but it deserves to. I think it does, because the things that you talked about, John, you talked right from my heart, and I'm so grateful that you could put it into words where I don't know how to do that, and all of the issues that you talked about. I just thought it was such an impressive work. So you guys don't get patted on the back very often. I'm giving you a big pat on the back, man. I thought it was great, and I hope everybody reads it and pays attention to. And I think it represents a real perspective that I know our players. You're representing our players in the things that you said and how they feel, and which I feel so connected to those guys. You representing me too. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Nico Marino.
Nico.
I'm off mute now. How you doing, Coach? Thank you.
Hey, bud.
All right. Just wanted to know a little bit about Carlos Hyde, and what excites you about him, and how much do you know about his rehab on his shoulder and where he's at and how ready for the season?
Okay, good. I just talked to Carlos I think the night before last or last night, just to see how he's doing with kind of moving into the club and making that transition and all. I'm really excited about him, adding him to our team. I've always loved the way he played. You guys know him. I mean, you've seen him. He fits the kind of style that we love. He plays at 230. He runs as hard as he can possibly run. He's got creativity to him. He's got style. He can catch the football. He had a fantastic season last year, but he's had a lot of really good years leading up to that. And we've competed against him enough that the first thing I said to him is, finally, we get you on our side, and so really thrilled to have him. We talked about his conditioning. We talked about his shoulder, just to get updated and how it's going. And he's moving along really well. He's made some steps forward in the last week that he's really proud of, and he thinks he's gonna be fine. So it sounds like everything's going great. We haven't had a chance to get him in the facility yet and see him, but we're counting on him being ready for the start of the season. So, and I'll say this too, that, there's some questions, where does he fit in and all that? He fits right into the competition. I feel like I've said this 1,000 times to you guys, that this is a great position for competition. And he and Chris run in similar fashion in the way that they slash and hit it. I think he gives us a real good I don't know where he's going to settle in. I don't really care right now. I just know he's going to do good, and he gives us a chance to really bring Rashad back and carefully bring him back so that he's a 100%, 1,000% right and ready to go when we cut him loose. We're really excited about it. We think Rashad is a little different style, and we love what he brings. But this will allow us to, I think, to be clear about the process of re-entering Penny back into it. So I think it's going to help us.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Sure. See you, Nick.
Ben Arthur.
Hey, Pete, how's it going?
What's up? What's up?
So kind of two questions. First one about Kaepernick. I'm sorry you've been asked this a billion times already, but you said you guys are kind of happy with your quarterback situation as is. I was just wondering though, do you think that a team will kind of rise to the occasion and give him a legitimate chance to be in the NFL this season? Do you see him possibly playing in the NFL?
I'm going to tell you something that after all of the time that, the years that have passed, I never received a phone call about him. I never talked to another head coach about it. I never talked to anybody about it until today. I got a phone call today. I'm not tell you who it was, but I got a phone call today in asking, inquiring about the situation. So I know, somebody's interested, and he, so we'll see what happens with that. I thought that was the irony of that was crazy because I knew I was coming on your press conference. You guys are going to ask me a million questions about this today. I got a phone call today for the first time, and the only guy I ever talked to about it, other than than just our own internal information, I called Jim Harbaugh way back when, and because I knew that he would. I respected what he would tell me. That was the only guy I ever talked to about it. That was before we ever visited him, and he glowingly supported Cap and all that, and just. That's why we were so positive as well, gave us reinforcement. But I just think it's ironic as heck that I got a call today. And who would think it?
Okay. And kind of the second question, you mentioned Rashad Penny in the previous question. I guess you have any updates on him? I mean, I know you haven't been able to see him physically, but what have you been hearing from him? And is the expectation still that he could possibly start camp on PUP?
Yeah, but I don't want to think that way, because it was a late season ACL, and there's a time frame we just have to allow. And knowing the skilled athlete position that he plays and all that, he's got to be back, convincingly ready to go. So I'm not worried about that. What day he comes back. What I'm concerned about is that we do it really well. He's doing great. He's in LA for the most part. In Southern California, and he's working with a guy that I know from years back that I totally believe in, and the reports that we're getting and from Rashad personally that he's cranking, he's really going, and so his weight's down, and which is good for this term of the rehab, and that'll help him some. But he's running on it. He's doing some stuff already, and he's moving forward. So nothing but great reports, and he's really determined. He checks in with me regularly, and so things are going well.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Art Teal.
Hi, Pete. Last Friday, Roger Goodell went on a video and said we, meaning the NFL, were wrong about Cap and the situations that happened before. And since you know that nothing in this country happens unless important white people sign on to it, would you be interested in approaching Jody Allen to approach other owners for a commitment to personal accountability in this? Because right now it's easy for the 32 owners to hide behind Roger Goodell's office.
I'm not sure what you're asking me, Art.
I'm asking to get
when you talk about the accountability, what are you asking for?
Yes, to get owners personally invested in what Roger Goodell said we were wrong, because it's easy to hide behind his office. Individual responsibility.
Well, okay, you guys don't know Jody Allen very well. She ain't hiding behind nothing. She's got an extraordinary perspective. She's got a strength to her. She's got a toughness to her. She ain't hiding behind anybody. I don't know what that means, what you're saying, but what the league said, what they said, and Roger made his comment, and all that, and he felt it was time to do that, and so he did it. I don't know that he spoke for me or for Jody or anything. He spoke for Roger, and in representing the league. So I think, Art, that everything that everybody says right now is scrutinized very heavily or very highly, and should be and deserves to be. And so, you know, people take what his words and his what he represented in different ways. And you know, I don't have anything to add to you about what other owners are going to do, but I do know that one of the things that's really important is that white people do a way better job in this whole discussion than they've ever done before. And the thing you said at the start about there's a lot of legislators that are white and that are making calls and are making decisions, and we have to make sure that we position ourselves so our word and our thoughts and what is right is represented. And that's why voting is so important. And that's why representing our areas are so important. Our players are so tuned into voting like never before for all of the right reasons. Well, we have to go through the process and work it through to make sure that the people that are calling the shots and the people that are controlling the voting issues that are all over the country that just makes me sick to my stomach is done properly and done in the right fashion. So I do see that there's a lot of white office holders that we need to communicate with, and we need to let them know what's going on. And I think we need to follow the emotion that drives this protest right now. This protest have been extraordinary, and they've made an enormous statement that's absolutely necessary. And so whatever you're talking about with the league, you know, we need to handle our own business. We don't speak for anybody else. We need to do it really well. We need to do all of the right things every step of the way. And that means support in the right fashion. Jody Allen's going to do that. I've got no reservation. I can't wait for her to get involved more so because of her perspective and where she comes from. And again, I say you guys don't know her that well because she has not been available to you yet. But when you find out where she's coming from, you'll see she's got great power and strength in her character and her makeup. And I welcome the chance for her to be in those discussions with other owners in the meetings and things like that, so that she can represent a perspective that will make us all proud.
Can you facilitate a meeting with Jody with us on Zoom?
I don't know. I want you to understand and learn her as much as anybody, because I just think she's a treasure, and I'll say something to her. I'll help because I'd like that to happen, but she's going to do what she wants to do. I promise you. She ain't going to do it because I bring it up.
Well, she's not going to do it with us, so we're counting on you to go to any length possible.
We'll see what happens. Sorry, Jody. I'm coming after you.
Brady Henderson.
Hi, Pete. Thanks for talking to us.
Sure.
What's been the reaction from white players on the team to hearing their teammates talk about experiences that they've had, maybe hearing that for the first time?
There has been some interesting specifics, about guys stating that they'd never been in these kinds of discussions before and never had the opportunity to see their own feelings come to the surface because of the rawness and the willingness on the part of Black players to tell their story and to give their perspective. And some guys have made statements that they see things differently than they have before. Marvelous. That's extraordinarily important, because that means we're growing. And guys are learning and seeing things differently than they've seen it before, which has to happen, because obviously what we've been seeing up to now hasn't got it done. It's been a mess. And so in the microcosm of a couple players, white players, coming in touch with their own feelings and understanding the feelings of others in a different way, that's what this thing's all about, because that's what has to happen for us all to come together and to make the kind of change that needs to happen. So I would never give you guys names because it's too personal and all that, but it has happened, in clear fashion, and it's in our coaches as well. Just more so than ever, we've been more tuned in, more clear. There's a lot of mentality out there that where people just have not even explored where they could go emotionally about what is taking place in our history, and they just haven't gotten there because of all of the upbringing and whatever, their experiences. They haven't allowed them to figure it out yet, and that's no excuse, but it's the truth. And so all that's happening is generating new conversation and new awareness that it has to happen for us to support the movement that it's going to take to make the big changes. We can talk about all we want. That don't mean nothing. We got to do stuff. And so it's an illustration how guys are being moved by the conversation, and they are seeing things differently than they ever have before, and they're appreciating and loving the guys for helping them see the new truths. And so it continues to be and will continue to be a powerful experience.
And this follow-up is less important relative to that, but we haven't asked you about the base defense in terms of what the plan is.
There you go.
Going forward, do you plan on that being as big a part of your defense as it was last year?
We'll see on that one. We have real good stats on it so that we know what we got out of what we did. But overall, we weren't as effective as we've been. And so that's when we get back on the field and we see how things fit together. A big part of that was some of the players that we had. We've always tried to draw from the strengths of our players, and that's was one of the reasons that we did that last year. And so we'll see how that goes. It is part of it, but it's valuable experience that we've had. And what you're asking is we play base defenses versus nickel offenses at times. Yeah. And there's a number of teams that have done that. We played those packages better than the nickel packages in the years past. But as that complemented all of our game and prepared us for all of our game, that's the decisions that we made as we see our players fit in. So I'm sorry I can't give you the definitive there, but all of that has been in discussion. All of that has been in the process of how we're approaching the season so that we can take advantage of the directions we may go depending on how the individuals contribute.
And one more, can Marquise Blair, can he fit into the nickel defense?
Yes. Matter of fact, he is a guy. He's a guy that we're very interested in finding a role for him. We've already mapped that out. He's got some real special talent that we want to find a spot for him, not just to go along and complement the safety play that he's going to play. So in the nickel package, he is getting. He's going to get a lot of consideration to contribute in some additional ways because he's unique and got some special stuff.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, guys. I'm very sorry I'm not going to be able to get to everyone, but before we let Colin run, I'm going to let.
I'm just getting warmed up, Lane. What are you talking about?
Well, let's let Michael Sean get a quick follow up real quick.
Of course.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on the 2018 workout.
Yeah, I ain't talking to you guys for a long time, so you better ask the questions now. Huh?
All right.
Going back to the 2018 workout that you guys had scheduled with Colin, you said that wasn't true. The reports that the workout was postponed because you guys were concerned about whether he would kneel during the anthem.
No, I don't know I can't exactly remember who was doing what, but we had already been through demonstrations of all kinds. We had all kinds of things going on, and if you remember, we went right to the club. I had the team. Let me say it this way: the players made the decision on how we were going to do what we did. And there was remember the video that we put out, and our guys, Doug did a tremendous job of narrating how we were going to stand arms locked in unity. And that was the players' decision. And when we came back to the next year, I talked to Bobby and Russ and the guys, and where do you feel like we need to go now? And we felt like, guys need to express themselves in the ways that they needed to express themselves, and just go back and look at the film on the sidelines. I felt like guys had to, we had to find a way. And there was a time when we all wanted to do exactly the same thing. And then there was a time when we thought it was okay. We were strong enough. We had enough confidence in ourselves and our ability to hold it together that guys could do what they needed to do. A couple guys stayed in the locker room, and there was a number of things that guys did. So that went out like that was the issue. That was never the issue. And so all I can do is tell you straight up, like I've told you every other word I've tried to say today to you, straight up as I can be, that was not the issue. And I know that was a media-driven thing. So I don't know where that came from, So that happens sometimes. Of course, not to you guys, but sometimes.
Well, I asked about that because there was also in those same reports that maybe you guys didn't ask specifically about the kneeling, but you asked about his plan for the season, whatever.
I remember that word came up. That had nothing to do with that. It had to do with, how was he looking at it? How was he content to be the backup for the season? Did he want to come in and compete for the starting job? We wanted to know, where was his head at the time and all that. But we ask everybody that. We always want to know that about guys, particularly experienced veterans. We want to know where's their head at right now? What are they thinking? And that was nothing unique to Cap's situation at all.
Thanks.
All right, Coach, I'll let you run, or I'll let you get a couple more in.
I'm good. Go ahead. I'm just sitting here.
Chris Francis.
Hey, made it under the wire. Thank you, Lane. Thank you, Coach. I want to piggyback on what Art was talking about in terms of the owners. For whatever reason, they have not spoken out about what has gone on. And in fact, you mentioned Sherman earlier, Richard Sherman. He said their silence speaks volumes. I'm curious what you think the league can do. It just seems to me the players don't trust the owners or trust the league to do what they say they're going to do. I'm just curious what you think the league can do in terms of helping the players trust.
I'm really glad you asked me that question, because I see this league as a players' league. I think we owe everything to the players. We owe everything to the guys from years past. I said this a number of years ago, and I was really emphatic about the perspective that I have for this thing is that this is a players' league. We owe everything to the players all the way back to the history of the league. And those guys that made this game come to life because they went out there and played this game when the freaking equipment was all screwed up and all that, and they took all the hits and the injury and all that, that they endured to play the game when they were making $4,000 or $5,000 a game or whatever, and gave their life to it. I see it even more so now that this is it's driven by the players. It's driven by their love for the game, their willingness to go out and play the game that they love and risk the things that they risk to do it. And that we should, and in that, as we respect them in that regard, we should also respect them for what they have to say about the game and what they bring to it. And in that, I would hope that as we move forward, obviously we didn't get the message before when we had a chance to. The message is the same message. We need to hear it better and hear it right as people that support the game and people that love the game from the outside. And that message comes from our guys, and we have to listen to them, and we got to grow with them and respond to them and make sure that we represent them, because the NFL is as powerful an institution as there is in the country. And this freaking league needs to stand up for the right stuff and make things move where we can make things move. We have a lot of power. Something happened, and next thing you know, the president's commenting on it. Well, we have the platform to do great stuff. Well, let's let our guys be in position to do that. Let's make sure that we support them and promote them. The black people know what's necessary. They've been living this life. It's the white people that got to come on board and figure it out. And we need our guys to speak on behalf of what is right and what is necessary. They're not right all the time. They're going to make some mistakes too, as everybody does. But we need to listen to them and respect them properly and appropriately. And if we do that, if we follow them, we're going to do the right thing. And so I really hope that more than ever before, that we will regard where they come from and what they know and what they see and what they feel as they represent their understanding of what's necessary in the world that they're living in. And it'll make the difference in how we follow that messaging in the league. So, I don't know where that fits on the scale of who you're supporting and all that in the league. I don't know. I'm just telling you what it feels like. We need to follow these guys. They know what's going on. They're coming from exactly the right place. They're coming from their heart and from their experiences that they uniquely know, and they will teach us an extraordinary amount that will make it all come to life if we do it right. And so I don't know if that answers your question. I like it though.
No, it does. It was good. Thanks.
Okay. All right, let's wrap up with Coach with Maz Vida.
Hey, Coach.
All right, last question. This better be a good one, Maz. Here we go.
Here we go, Coach. But going back to something that you said in terms of what's happening now, how important it is to go from talking and really look at the structure, the racism structures that are in place, and then moving with that, like voting and the power that's in place. How important is that?
Yeah, it is. It's ultimately most important that we figure out how to make the change happen. And by we have to go to school. We got to learn. We got to learn where we can put our energy so that it can be received well and acted upon. Our players' wives are putting together a march on Saturday, and from Aubrey Davis Park, I think it is, at 2:00, and that's a statement opportunity for us to make, and we can't wait to get there and be part of it and all of that. There's that kind of gestures that we can make that are openly received and seen, but we've got to do the hard work behind the scenes wherever we can. And I know the Denver Broncos are doing some really good stuff involved with legislation. We have to get involved. What Doug Baldwin did with his movement and with law enforcement a couple years back, it was unbelievable what he accomplished to get all the way to the Capitol and get his stuff received well and put into motion. But that not everybody can contribute in that way, and so we have to, like I said, we have to respect the guys that have the knack and the sense and the awareness and promote and support them so that they can carry the message that we can stand behind and back them up, because and that's why the messaging is so important. It goes all the way through the legislature, all the state ones and the federal, and we have to do it by voting. That's one big way, but we got to get the right people in position to make the right choices so that we can make the changes, because we have to get this done. We have to make the changes. We don't have a choice, and so. And it's as simple as reading the newspaper, reading the internet, finding out what's going on around you. Where can you support? Where do you want to put your love behind? Where you want to put your money behind? And everybody do their part, and it's going to take a collective. That's why the protests are so important. That the word is out there and everybody is aware. And we need to continue to grow. This should be an ongoing protest of getting to the right place where everything is right and equal and just and all of that. So I wish we had a simple answer to it. Nobody does, because it's not a simple solution. It's a big solution. And just being with it isn't good enough. And just being on board, that ain't good enough. We've seen that before. We got to go. I'll leave you with this one. Back in the day, there was a great social activist, and Dick Gregory said, we got a big job. We ain't got much time. And he said that in the 60s and 70s. Well, it's true today. It hasn't happened yet. We got a big job, and we ain't got much time, and we've got to go for it. And so that's what we're called on. We got to do it. All right. See you. You win, Lane. You win, Lane.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Pete.
Coach.
Appreciate it.
See you guys.